Wrestling in Memphis was on Channel 13, and one Saturday morning at 11 o'clock I watched a wrestling show for the first time, and I can remember the very first angle that I ever saw was the interns and Dr. Ken Ramey against Kevin Sullivan, and yes, the Kevin Sullivan, but he was a young kid, a rookie, and Lynn Rossi was a local Memphis wrestling. That was in 71, and I became hooked, and here we are today. Jerry came along and put him with Tojo Yamamoto, and Tojo actually trained Jarrett in the ring, one of the trainers for Jarrett on the ring, and so Jarrett and Tojo drew a lot of money, sellout business all over the territory, and Nick was just a bully and a loudmouth, and just the brains behind the promotion before Jerry Jarrett was Roy Welch. Roy was Nick's partner. Roy was the baby face, Nick was the heel, but Roy was the sneaky baby face because he was really the puppeteer. And Nick was the puppet. Then when Roy got sick, national stars like Bobo Brazil and Dick the Bruiser and Mr. Wrestling 2 and Jerry Briscoe and Dory Funk, and it was all to build for world title matches in Memphis, and for the champions, his first championship. I guess I have to go back on that. I said he first won the title in '74. His first World Heavyweight Championship challenge was in 1973, so I misspoke earlier. His first World Championship match was in Memphis in 1973, and the world champions that they brought in to wrestle him in those early years were Jack Briscoe, then Harley Race, then Terry Funk. Then when we switched alliances to the AWA, Nick Bonkwinkle. But every week it was about Lawler's fight for the Southern Heavyweight title, which made him the #1 contender for the world title. So those 3 or 4 or 5 times a year that the world champion would come in, the story was been told. From a business aspect, a booking aspect, Dundee is just fantastic, and the run he had in Louisiana, as you know, the darling of the hardcore fans, used to be Mid-South Wrestling. Well, the best 2 years Mid-South Wrestling ever had was when Bill Dundee's little ass was booking that company. I remember that it started when we were building toward the Super Clash, the AWA stuff, and I was heavily involved in those discussions where we were using world class AWA and Memphis to build for the pay-per-view in Chicago with Lawler and Kerry to unify the World Heavyweight Championship. So working together as a promotion, like I said, I was heavily involved in that. You know, wrestlers are not normal. Wrestling business people are not normal. I'm not normal. Realize that, because we just have that attitude. We're wrestling people. So, do some people might think Jerry Lawler is cocky and have an ego? And yes, they might. But they would have thought that if they knew him in 1973 also. And it's all because they made the choice to bring him into Memphis, because there's no doubt in my mind if Randy Savage wouldn't have got the opportunity to come into a mainstream promotion, a small territory company like Memphis, he would have never gone to the WWF. And every time I saw him after it, he would always bring up, said, man, I'd never be where I was today if you guys wouldn't have brought me in to Memphis. So he was appreciative of the fact. That's the good about Randy. The bad about Randy is that he was so intense, and he was so paranoid, and he was so untrusting on everybody. At times, you know, he was pretty hard to do business with, because you didn't he didn't trust you. He didn't trust anybody, and I don't think he ever trusted people. I tell you, I don't know if you can call this a funny Randy Savage story, but one of the craziest Thursday nights, Friday nights maybe, I ever had in my life is we had 2 towns booked. A Tennessee, so we traveled, the Cage Crew, me and Jeff Jarrett. Get the idea, you know. So he started with those kind of jobs, but he started refereeing, but there was never, Jerry wanted him to give his education, but during that summer he got the bug, and then it was never on purpose. We did an angle because Dundee was booking, and booked a loser leave town match with him and Lawler. Dundee won. They were resting Lawler for about 3 months for big business. The angle to get Lawler to come back was beating up Jeff as a referee. I think it helped Brian's career that he more of an identity on his own, because that's big steps to fill, the biggest steps to fill in being Jerry Lawler's son. And like I said, even though some people knew, I mean, we certainly didn't make a deal out of it, and even lied about it. If people would have asked, Jamie, I knew was born to be a wrestler too. Now, he was little and never gave a crap. I mean, Dundee was small in height, but he was thick and worked out every day. 70 years old now, still works out 5 days a week. Bill is opposite of Jamie. Bill Dundee is the most responsible human being I've ever seen. The best guy with money I've ever seen. Probably still has his first dime. I started wrestling in about 72, 73. Tommy was a great in-ring wrestler. I mean, great. And I think Doug would 100% agree with this, that Tommy was the best worker of the 3 by far. Not the best promo, nor the person that had the best personality of the 3, but Tommy was the best worker, and he was put in a tag team with Eddie Marlin, and they drew money, man. There's my word. They drew money with the bounty hunters. They drew money with the interns. They drew money with Lawler and White. Tommy just was a great at the fundamentals, was in and out of the territory, even though he lived in the way the Memphis territory did, because you ran the business. You know, if you were the booker with full power, you ran the business, the booking the towns, the doing the payoffs, everything. So Eddie never had that opportunity because he would leave to have that. So I certainly think he had the knowledge. I really do. He just never had that long reign to have that body of work. Crazy stuff we did, and so in my mind, Doug Gilbert is known for that in the Memphis territory, not for being somebody's son, not for being somebody's brother. It's because that body of work he had from that period that he did a great job. He could talk. The people believed in him, whether he was a heel or a baby face, and just tremendous. Back when he was in high school, you thought that he would be a great booker. Eddie just didn't stay in one place a long time. Would get upset with the promotion or have issues or whatever the case. So you know, you can just think it's hard to play what if. And I think I will say this. I think if he would have stayed in the area, and let's pick Memphis. If he would have booked Memphis, and I just wanted to, so let's stress that about the Memphis territory. It wasn't just about bringing big stars in, because there was big stars. You tell me on this list if I say a name you hadn't heard of, because these are all guys. Remember, this was a weekly territory, 52 weeks out of the year, and 11,500, 11,008, 11,009, depending on what you get away with the fire marshal, maybe 12,000 a few times. this is a partial list of people that Jerry Lawler sold out the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum with, and I want you to stop me on. There'll be a couple of names I don't think you would know. Of course, Jackie Fargo,
right?
Ricky Gibson, Robert Gibson, the Mongolian Stomper. Here's one you won't know. Don Anderson.
Don't know.
Same deal as, and remember a lot of these guys at the time, Rick Gibson and Don Anderson too, and Don just drew money in Memphis, but it was all the same story. Even people that became names afterwards, when they came into Memphis, nobody knew them. Lawler put them over, made them a star, then they sold out. So after Don Anderson, we got Paul Orndorff. Know him now.
Yeah.
Back then, a guy with a good body, that's all you knew. I mean, Bobo Brazil, Dick the Bruiser, The Sheik, Tommy Rich, Bill Dundee, Jimmy Valiant, Jack Briscoe, Terry Funk, Harley Race, Nick Bonquico, Dutchman, Tail, Buddy Landell, Mr. Perfect. It was the fact that it was a good screw up. And Lance comes out, and he does this remarkable thing, and that's what the Memphis territory was waiting for. So I've said several times, best business in 5 or 6 years. It'd be nice for me to say, man, I was brilliant. But because of the fact that I knew Memphis wrestling, and because I knew what the people, because I was a fan, I knew that sometimes if you can't have Johnny Carson without Ed McMahon. I mean, there's just some people made together. You can't have Lucy without Ricky, and so many of the other teams. You can't have Lance without Dave, and you can't have Dave without Lance. I mean, and Lance was the key, so he comes out there, and I knew that was the key. And remember, this was, I'm sure there's a lot. In the 80s, we brought Robert Fuller in '89. I thought he was a great heel, and I thought we did great stuff with him and Robert Fuller. You know, that didn't draw money. That didn't get over. Jeff and Robert, I thought we did good stuff. That didn't draw money, and I regret that. Also, remember, George Barnes left in '75, came back for the very first time in '87. Jerry Jarrett had a different vision of that than I did and Bill Dundee did. He brought him in in a 6-man with Dundee and Rocky Johnson, and then they went with the George Barnes Bill Dundee feud. When I came back between the '89 and '93, all of a sudden we couldn't do blood, period,
right, on
TV, and blood was a big part of the Memphis history. And as we get in, I cheated and got around with it and had a big argument. We'll get to it when we get into the rock and roll stuff. But studio-wise, I think Eddie Gilbert suggested that.
Yeah.
Ask if I'd do it. He did it to Jerry, or maybe, I don't know. We did it to Jerry Jarrett. He was fireballing everybody.
Right.
You know, so he fireballed him. I'll tell you, I do regret one thing about that. Bad. You know, back then, wrestling, you know, you kayfabed everybody. You treated it like a shoot. I went to church with a lot of people that watch wrestling. Mm. You know, so I did that angle on Saturday morning. I think it might have even been around Mother's Day. I'm not sure about that, but I remember I was in church on Sunday morning. After the Saturday where I did the burn, I put my makeup on to cover the burn because I knew there was wrestling fans on there to go to church.
Right.
And I regret that. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a great angle because we needed a new babyface tag team. Jarrett got the idea of use the Jackie Fargo deal. You wouldn't believe in about a year and a half time, you wouldn't believe how hot they were. They were hot as a firecracker. And to me, Jerry Lawler is the greatest wrestler I've ever seen. That's right. Overall, everything together. Jerry Lawler, what wrestling means to me, which I've said so many times, drawing money, you know, getting over, knowing how to get heat, knowing how to sell. The total package, the best I've ever seen, Randy Hales thinks, is Jerry Lawler. No doubt in my mind. No doubt.